Hello everyone, this is Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai. I want to talk to you about another very important topic, racism. I think it's important to really understand this deep so we can really structure the right policies. One of the things many of you know about me, I'm not a surface level type guy to discuss topics or come up with ideas just so they fit some political mold. I'm really the kind of guy, who really likes to go into things really deeply, as many of you really deserve and need. For far too long, we've had politicians and policymakers and political consultants and lobbyists who never really get into the depths of an issue, understand it, figure out what the issues are, and solve it. And you deserve that, I deserve that, and the country deserves that. The founders of this country were very thoughtful people. If you look at the Constitution and the constructs that they created, these people were thinking 300 years ahead. And that's how you create great nations. You don't think in a very short time period or in a short, superficial way. So this is where we are with racism. By the way, racism has to be discussed. If you look at the Gallup polls every week, the #1 issue that they say Americans like you are concerned about is governance and how the government works. But the #2 issue consistently over the last probably 24 to 30 months has been racism. Now, what's occurred in America is that the so-called left or the Democrat, one arm of the establishment, tries to own racism in a very bounded way and tries to tell you what's racist and what's not racist. And the right, or the so-called Republicans, tell people to ignore it, that if you discuss racism, then you're making excuses for yourself. Well, both of these guys, which are, by the way, two arms of the establishment, like Ben Garrison's cartoon there shows, their aim is to control the discussion, not only on this topic, on many topics, so you always feel like you can't talk about stuff, but we need to talk about it. And Elizabeth Warren's entire, charade and drama is a great opportunity to discuss this. I mean, just to summarize here you have a woman who, excuse me, I'm just going to take a little sip here. Elizabeth Warren here has used race, affirmative action, to lie that she is a Native American to get a job at Harvard. And on top of that, when you're looking at the people, us and our thousands of volunteers who on the ground are the ones who created the meme, only the real Indian can defeat the fake Indian, and a very powerful meme. We've been on the ground putting up signs. I'm the one who centered the first DNA test kit, as you guys know. We're the ones who made this a national, international phenomenon. When we brought this up, in opposition to that, she ran to the Boston Globe, which is a corporate shill company, which claims that they're for inclusivity and diversity, and they wrote a 20-page piece saying that she's not, she never got into Harvard because she claimed to be Native American. Now, they must think you are stupid and I'm stupid because no organization I've ever been a part of, or even any major academic organization or any professional organization, is ever going to admit, oh, we hired Bill because he's African American, or we hired Sue because she's Native American. They don't do that. So to think that they're going to say, admit, and base the entire article on that is nonsense. That's the article that the Boston Globe wrote a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago. Then, after we started hammering even more on the ground, our volunteers have been out putting up signs everywhere. Only the real Indian can defeat the fake Indian. Small ones, big ones, we distribute cards. Warren's been feeling the heat. So then she goes and takes a DNA test. Now, by the way, she takes a DNA test, not the 23andMe one, which I believe probably showed that she had no Native American genes. She goes and finds a guy called Carlos Bustamante, who, by the way, is out of the Harvard clique, who, by the way, also has a company which he's about to raise a lot of money for, and this kind of thing gives him a lot of publicity. And she finds him to sprinkle in Colombian, Peruvian, and other DNA to try to now assert that she's Native American. Now, here's the problem. She's 99.99% white. That's 1 divided by, it's actually 1 minus 1 divided by 1024, which is basically 99.99%, okay? 2 to the power of 10 is 1024. That's 10 generations back. So what are we talking about here? Here we're talking about a white liberal racist. As white as you can get in many ways. We call her Whitey Warren. Owen Schroyer on InfoWars coined that term, but that's what she is. She's Whitey Warren, 99.99%. And Whitey Warren, now with the Boston Globe, is trying to shove down everyone's throat that she is in fact Native American. When the reality is the percent error in that is the statistical error from the sprinkling that they did is probably even greater than even anything she has left over. So why am I sharing this with you? So you have someone like Warren, part of the Democratic left, and by the way, probably 10 people at Harvard University think, many of them white liberal racists, think they own racism. So how have they defined what it means not to be a racist? Well, they've told you, don't use the N-word, don't use Confederate flags, right? Take down certain buildings, change the name of certain buildings, and if you do all that, then you're not a racist. That's what they've done, and they've imposed this very ceremonial form of anti-racism. On the other hand, you have the so-called Republicans and the so-called right, which tell you don't discuss racism. If Shiva discusses racism, it's a taboo topic we shouldn't be discussing. Well, they're also pretty idiotic about it. And the truth is, there is racism. There is the racism that a guy like me, that you guys supported, got 20,000 signatures, who busted his buns, went through the public school system, worked really hard, got 4 degrees at MIT, started 7 companies, created a lot of jobs, is not allowed on the debate stage. That's racist. Whether it's black, white, brown, yellow, etc., it's racist. It's racist because here, my definition of racism is not only color, it's excluding the diversity of ideas. And that's what both parties do. Let me remind you, Donald Trump is not a Republican or a Democrat. And any one of you who thinks, oh, let's go jump on the Republican bandwagon now because they're against the Democrats, well, be reminded of all the never-Trumpers. Be reminded that the establishment is one. Don't get fooled. Don't be fooled again. The only way that we get out of this and really create the America we want, or the great America, is we have to be independent in thought and in action. So, getting back to what is racism. Racism is using race to advance oneself politically, financially, economically. That's racism. And those in power, Republicans and Democrats, use race. One party over here is always pointed at the blacks and the minorities, and the other party here is pointed at the redneck whites. And if you say something positive about, or you point out the fact that poor whites have high infant mortality rates, that they have the highest opioid addiction rates, then you're called a white supremacist. If you call on the fact that blacks have been taken advantage of in the history of slavery, and you bring those issues up in a very substantive way, and the real way to solve that is not throwing bones. Affirmative action was a gain of the civil rights movement, but it was never really the core solution. The real solution was for us to actually build infrastructure in inner cities, give safety, give security, give people skills-based education. Well, neither party has ever really done that. And therefore, we never address racism. In fact, we perpetuate racism. Both parties do. And my candidacy, your candidacy, all those who support me, here is a huge opportunity to really bring this country together. That's what this is really about. And it's your opportunity to recognize that everyone should be demanding to let Shiva debate. Because that's where truth comes. That's where we end racism, where we have a diversity of ideas. Not a diversity of skin color, but a diversity of ideas. So you have one guy who's a complete failed science salesman, a complete moron, who couldn't even win a state Senate seat, who's running now under the Republican rubric, who faked a Photoshop picture with Trump, 3 hands, who lies he's a Trump chairman, who's got a campaign manager who's a Saudi lobbyist, who betrayed our veterans and 9/11 families. That guy is promoted as a Republican candidate. And Elizabeth Warren, who lied to get into Harvard, created fraudulent papers in science that everyone needed to be on health insurance, created a hearing aid scam. She's promoted to you as their Democrat candidate. Well, both of these candidates are, I hate to use this word, scumbags. They are lower than the low. They're nowhere near the eminence of what you deserve. You deserve someone like me and someone like you who works for a living, who doesn't need this job. And so racism is about pitting us against each other and keeping, frankly, the dark matter. By the way, most of the universe is dark matter. 60% of Massachusetts is dark matter, meaning that it's the independents, who are never really counted, that the two parties own. They're left off the stage. That's racism. And so we're going to rally against racism. Rally against the fact that 3 people on the ballot, but Darky over here, and you're part of that, is not on the debate stage. That means you don't get choice. You don't get a diversity of ideas. That we don't really get to go deep on issues. Why is there all this cancer and all these, systemic problems? Why is the lifespan of the next generation going to be less than the lifespan of the future generation? We don't get to talk about how we really, have free speech in this country again. We don't get to talk about how we really lower the cost of healthcare. So we have to live for the same old issues. Do you believe in higher taxes or lower taxes? Are you pro-abortion, against abortion? 3 or 4 issues. That's racism, because it's a racism against a diversity of ideas. And truth emerges from all of us being open and having the opportunity to have multiple ideas, and we get to make decisions because you think independent and you need to act independent. So again, Shiva for Senate here. Again, anyone who wants road warrior signs, which says only the real Indian can defeat the fake Indian, email me at Shiva for Senate. If you're in Massachusetts, you can just pick them up for free. If you're outside, just give $10, it's free, and we'll mail them out to you. But remember, you think independent, now act independent. Anyway, thank you very much. Again, this is Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai.